we cannot do anything but to say the Turks wake up. They have to think about it. We don't need to show us that their bones are Armenian bones. You know, you go to Diyarbakir, and in 2 years, we were also heard a lot of places in Diyarbakir that they found caves full of bones and the skulls. And what happened? The army came in, they barricaded it, and they said, we are investigating. And later on, internal security comes in and says, who was the person who leaked this information? Do not talk about it, we are investigating and closing it. So when you say what we can do, you and I in Sherman Oaks, certainly we cannot do much. We can just do our scholarship and talk about our congressmen and let them do a job. But I would say that time has come. And unfortunately, I'm not optimistic in that respect. Because in Turkey, you have secular nationalists, you have Islamist nationalists, and believe it or not, leftist nationalists. They are against each other, these three main groups. But when it comes to the Armenian genocide, they are one. The leftists say that the Armenians are the imperialist proxy, because the 7th Treaty says Armenia should be under the US mandate. There you go, that's. Leftists are against it. Islamic nationalists come in, those are gevurs, infidels. And the seculars come, the thieves, the perpetrators. So we have a problem here. Now, how are we going to solve that? I think US and the Great Britain are the first places to start for recognition. And we hope that this may happen soon. But again, you have to realize that now that the US Congress, the Foreign Affairs Committee, that you actually passed a resolution, that 252, what it says, the resolution says, we assert American documents on Armenian genocide. It's not a big deal. US documents are layers and layers of thick, showing that that genocide happened. So we are asserting our own documents. But why that is happening now? Well, Israel and Turkey are in some sort of a conflict. And one telephone from Israel to Washington, lobbyists saying that maybe you should give them our time, for example. So we realize that we are also a football. But eventually, an enormous organized crime should be made public and will be made public. We may not see that in 50 years, but it's going to come.
In your talk, you said that Ambassador Morgenthau, when Tala told him to give me the name of the policyholders, I thought I've read somewhere that he actually refused to do that. But it looks like you're saying that he did cooperate with that.
No, you're right. It is right. He actually left the room and went.
Right.
But he was cooperating with the insurance companies, if I didn't make that clear. So that they, in other words, they are enlisting Morgenthau to help the insurance companies to prevent Turks actually confiscating their properties. Because they were also considering to confiscate American properties. Even the missionaries were actually started to side with the Turks, because when the missionaries started to think that they're going to lose their properties, hell with it, they said. I'm sorry to say that, but that's what happened. But the insurance companies outsmarted, and they didn't give. And their properties were not confiscated.
My next question is, don't you think it goes against our self-respect to allow this main issue of genocide to become like a kind of a game between Israel shaking fingers at Washington. Washington wants the Turkey to do their bidding. They shake the bones of the genocide. I mean, how long can we allow this to happen? Aren't we in a, I don't know, insulting. That's the bottom line.
Well, if you are weak, that's what it is.
Yeah.
My father-in-law always says, the truth belongs to the powerful. He says something in Turkish also. But that's what it is. We have no power. We have no power. We have no oil. We have no seaports to entice foreigners to invest and come in. Why the United States is going to come and help the Armenians when he's going after all explorations and making money there? Tobacco industry is doing there. So why? Business of America is business. And our business is culture. They don't give a damn.
Yes.
Please.
Dr. Karagueuzian, could you please clarify on your statement about the transfer of the money from Constantinople to some banks in Berlin? In your research, did you actually find a paper trace?
That's a good point, very good point. You know, yeah, the question is, could you provide greater details of the sums of money transferred from Constantinople to Berlin on the accounts of the Ittihadists? It's a very good question and a very difficult one to answer. Because the modus operandi of the Ittihadists is utmost secrecy and deception. And Javid was a person perfectly qualified for their job. We don't know, we don't have a document saying, I, Talat Pasha, have $5 million in Berlin Reichsbank. But that doesn't exist. In fact, when I mentioned about the New York Times extensive coverage of Talat after his assassination, he had an assumed name of Ali Said Bey. So not even Talat exists. So Ali Said Bey was there. And where was the Ali Said Bey money? We don't know. We don't know. But the major orders of evidence that I have provided from the commissioner, from the foreign minister of Turkey, prime minister of Great Britain, and Talat's own confession that these sums of money were actually 25 million, today's money, up to 1916 money, and were transferred out of Istanbul because Istanbul was at the brink of falling in the hands of the Allies, which was happened. And just to give you an example, what can $25 million do in 1916? Well, it turned out that the United States government bought U.S. Virgin Islands from Denmark. Guess for how much? $25 million in 1916. So our bank accounts in 1916 were equivalent of the Virgin Islands. And I called a tourist office of Virgin Islands to say how much a square foot costs. He says, well, you want to go close to the water? $700 a foot square. And then goes down to 100. And I made it $100 a foot square. And we have billions. So, well, it's a lot of money there. Please.
Yeah. The Turkish denialist policy and also the Article 301 survived. Turkey gets admitted to the European Union.
Well, so far, we have seen vague statements from the European Union on respecting human rights issue in Turkey. However, specifically coming to the 301, I'm not sure. I don't think they have done that. So the question is a good one. And if the Armenian will think that the Turks are honest in their quest for reconciliation, the first thing they have to do is eliminate Article 301. The second thing is to open the mass graves so that the dead can deserve a proper burial. And the third is to protect the Armenian cultural remains that still are there, half desecrated, half destroyed and demolished.
Quick question, I'm sorry. How old